Wondered, Jake, if you could share a little bit more. You've clearly been an early mover in the industry, and you were able to make the case for flex track. So how can you share a little bit how you develop a network of executives and stakeholders and other people, influential people that can help you instigate the change, get people a little bit more comfortable maybe with being out front, and then looking at the ROI.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, me as an individual leader, or our vendor management office team, you have to do your homework, have to do your due diligence and all of the research, and be confident in what you're suggesting. I think because there is always a risk, but I have seen time and time again, if you are willing to put your name, your kind of reputation on the line, that certainly help smooth that over or mitigate some of those risks. But from the executive and stakeholder side, and it's a pretty good segue that just talked about all of the naysayers, different pieces of feedback, we had gotten, really was a couple things. One, can't stress it enough, focusing on that enterprise organizational goals and what the existing, kind of solution we have or existing state isn't getting us there. What are the limitations and what we really need to do to be able to achieve those things? All of this takes time, so a lot of patience, but really need to build trust, operate with transparency, delivering on the things that you'll say you'll do, providing proactive data, insights ahead of time from all the research and homework that you've done. The biggest thing that I really had found just in our latest go around with all of this was kind of proving that we understood each individual's headaches, their priorities, their goals, and how this new suggestion, new tool would align with those goals, or how the initiative in general, we could tie it to their goals. And then obviously articulating just kind of the ROI and kind of really road mapping step by step how the solution or what changes we're proposing could get us to the desired state. And again, probably picked up on it. It started with a lot of individual conversations, then larger group conversations, and even larger group conversations. And in those initial conversations with specific leaders, specific stakeholders, really just adapting our messaging to speak their language. When we were talking to CorpSys team or the technology folks, it was talking about scalability and integrations and automations, and really a data-driven approach. When it's shifting to finance, it's cost savings, reduction of manual labor efforts, dashboarding, spend analysis, things like that. So really just taking what we felt our program needed, what my goals, my team's goals were, and shifting that focus to just speaking about their goals and how we could complement them. A little bit of inception, from that perspective of trying to get them to be on board and have it be their idea, from the get-go as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and some great advice there on how to be a business partner. It's really about them and not you, and that's kind of goes without saying, but I wanted to call it out because you've given a number of examples where it works. Will, you've instigated change in a number of organizations and industries. What about what did you do to go about building these networks to be able to kind of facilitate and make change happen?
Yeah, so very similar to Jake, but try to focus on what is the least impactful thing I can do, or what is the least painful thing I can do with the maximum amount of return, right? So how do I stair step or like slow roll into the change, kind of almost create the illusion of we're not changing that dramatically. We're kind of slowing into this, and it's going to be a step into this process. And it's all based on where you are, right? Like where you are within your program, right? If you're going from you're established, this is Gen 3, Gen 5, whatever however old you are as a program, and you have to make some very, big change at that point in time. But if you're in kind of a newer stage, right, how can you slow roll into, the most impactful thing with the most minimal amount of pain that you have to go through from a change perspective. So I like to think about how you almost like roadmap your change and like really where you're going to change and at what point you would change. And then how do you stair step into the next one, or how do you slow roll into the next piece of change? There's different, kind of practices you could explore on this, but I found that depending on a lot of it's based on your program size and scope, right? I mean, if you're brand new, slow rolling into it. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit easier buy-in. If you're a much more established program, you're going to have to make that hard switch, and you're going to have to make the big leap. So it's really situational based. But yeah, for me, what's been successful is really trying to dissect the current pain points that we have and how I can fix those along the roadmap, and then what's the change that I can produce or I need to do in order to make that very minimally impactful to the business outcomes that we have.